Hey folks, Jim here. Different video today. Over the past couple of years or so, and at the field and round and about, I've been asked all kinds of questions about my modelling career, if they say so. And what got me here. What else do I do? What's my past, so forth. And how I got interested in it. So I thought I'd just answer some of these questions here. I compiled them from a bunch of emails and questions from the past. So here we go. So question one, how did I get into model building? Well, that's interesting. I believe, if I can remember, many years ago, my brother John and I was with my dad in Somerset, UK, and we had nothing to do, but we went to a hobby shop and Dad bought us a couple of balsa gliders. These really rudimentary things, but they were dope and tissue covered and all that. I think one was called a Dolphin. I think that's the one I had. So we built these things in this little bungalow, I think, that we rented. And we took them flying and so forth, figured out how to make the elevator so we could, have them level flight. And then we got ambitious. Then we covered them in cigarette lighter fluid and lit them and then shot them off. And these were the rubber bands where, you'd shoot them off like that. So we had a fun time, reenacting World War II Battle of Britain, and set light to the field, which was a kind of short cropped hay. It was a campsite I think we were flying in, and that didn't go down too well with the owner. So that was my first stint into model building. From that, I went into plastic models. I think they were Urfix at the time, pretty much Urfix, I would say. And I built the English Electric Lightning was my first model, then a Spitfire, and so on and so forth. So I built, 10 or 12 of these things over a few years. Plus I built the Golden Hind, which was the big plastic model boat, which was pretty ambitious for, at that time, maybe a 12-year-old. So that's how I first started model building, and that got me interested. So I hope that answers your question. Here's an interesting question. Do you fly full-size aircraft? I used to. I am a qualified pilot, also mill pilot. I got into fast jets in my very early 20s. Did the fast jet training program, and then I went into sort of a bit of special ops stuff. Can't get into that too much. Then I got injured in an explosion, and that kind of screwed me up. Plus I got concussion, broke my nose, and almost died running down a mountain. But anyhow, I was a jet pilot, and then I did, back in 1990, I believe, I decided to fly again, because now I could fly with glasses and corrected vision and so forth, which was damaged from my accident. And I had to take the civilian, or I should say the US pilot training course, because I couldn't get my information from the DOD because of the types of things we did. So I had to take it all over again. It was very easy, passed it in the exact on 40 hours, got 99.5% on the written, which the instructor thought I was cheating because nobody gets that, as he says. But anyhow, it was pretty easy to do that. You can just remember the bloody answers. All the questions, I should say. So yes, I am a full-size pilot and qualified and all that, but I've not flown for about 10, 15 years, something like that, and I have really no interest in it because, I've dodged death a few times and damaged my back in injection and so forth. So no, I don't fly anymore, but I am a full-size pilot. Here's an interesting question for an old pilot. Have I ever tried RC cars? I bet you would build big ones. Not really. I mean, I've played with a RC car a few times. Not really interested, to be honest. But I do. I have and still do car restorations. I have done a Triumph TR8 from nuts and bolts, ground up and all that kind of thing. I've done a couple of Spider convertibles, or roasters I guess you call them over here. A Nissan ZX which was written off and I rebuilt. And then traded it in for a Mazda 262 I think it was. And I'm currently refurbing a Audi TT, a 2002 Audi TT Roadster. And the reason I got the Roadster is I was in Vegas when I lived in Panama City Beach. I came to Vegas on a vacation or business, not sure what now. And I was in a casino and I saw this beautiful silver convertible with baseball glove leather seating. And it was spinning around on one of those daises, you know, with the searchlights on it and all that. It just looked fantastic. So when I got home, I tried to buy one. They said it was a 2-year waiting period. And no, I wasn't able to test drive one. So I said, well, screw you guys, you know. And I probably spent as much in money trying to win it than what the bloody thing cost in the first place. So anyhow, yeah, I do cars. And I'll show you a few pictures as we talk about it. Here's a good one. Do you ever build ARFs? I guess almost ready to fly, or whatever it's called. And what models have you built? I've been in RC since what was it now? 1974 or 75 or something like that. And it was a Dave Platt Spitfire that I was building back then. So that was, you know, a boxed or kit plane. Then, you know, I did that for a few years, going through college and all that stuff, and that was my hobby whilst, you know, being re-educated, as they say. Then, you know, I got busy with work, so I didn't do anything for about, I don't know, 15, 20 years, and then I got back into it. And I also moved to Fernley, Nevada, which is the desert. So the only ARF I ever built, I think it was a Cessna 172 from, I think it's Nitro Planes. I'm not sure. But, you know, it came with a radio on that. So I threw it together in like an hour or something. It was pretty shitty. It was foam and cheap components and so forth. And then I took it up to one of the fields where they were still building houses and flew off the road. And, you know, it was like falling off a bike, no problem. I could fly it dead easy, you know, so on and so forth. Got about 300 yards away, and then it started to become intermittent. And it was because it was the radio what came with the plane, and it was crap. It had maybe a 300 yard or meter, whatever, distance before the radio started to fail. So, yeah, I did do that. That's let's see. Oh yeah, and I got a T28. I forget whose model it was. It was a 55-inch wingspan, something like that. That was pretty good. That flew great, and actually, that's how I became a composite aircraft designer builder. I used the T28 after it had a few accidents, recovered it, then added rivets, details, and all that sort of stuff. And I'll show you pictures while we're talking about it. And I made my first molds off that. That's what I did. Then I got an SU-35 with Freewing, I believe it was. And that was great. Flew great, but it sounded like crap. It sounded like an airdryer. So sold that off, and that was, I think, the last ARF I've ever owned. Now here's a good one. What tools do you mostly use for model building? There we go. Well, to be honest with you, I only used a bandsaw and a sander for the most part until about 7 years ago. And laser printers started come down and were cheap, so I bought myself one. It was $5,000, so I guess it wasn't that cheap. And that changed the way I did business. That really sped up development for prototyping because I design most of my aircraft. Then let's see. Oh, and then 3D printers. Then Brad and I, who's my sort of business partner, my modeling and flying partner, friend, we split on a 3D printer. I'll show you a picture of it. And then we used that for a couple of years, and that was, I guess, one of the early ones. So it was quite small. You couldn't print really big parts. And then we bought ourselves, again, we split on the cost and bought ourselves a big, biggish printer where we could actually print fuselages or segments of fuselages and so forth. So I would say the 3D printer and the laser cutter are the best tools I've ever bought. And then I bought lately a really good bandsaw because the one I had was drifting all over the place. You couldn't cut anything straight. So this new one, I mean, just absolutely beautiful, pricey, but it cuts real clean and straight. And actually, I'll put it in the description, some of these tools that I use. So if you're interested, you could go buy them. It saves you searching for them. And then I bought myself a lathe, which was actually about 20 years old. But it was still in its wax wrapping and it was full of grease and stuff. So it was brand spanking new. And I got it for like, I think, $150 if I recall, maybe $200. And, you know, it's not a fabulous one. It's kind of like one of those Chinese lathes, but it's made in Taiwan, so it's of much better quality. And I'd say those are the tools that as far as power tools, shall we say, those are the tools that I use the most. And has really allowed me to build much bigger and better quality builds or planes, whichever you want to call it. And I've used the 3D printer and laser cutter for creating jigs, fixtures, all kinds of things. And it's great for instrument panels, and I'll show you a picture of that. And I just love these tools. And to me, it's like, you know, if you're going to be serious in this hobby and design or build your own aircraft, I think these tools are an absolute must. So I highly recommend them. Here's an interesting one. What was your career? Well, except for flying, I was an aerospace and telecom engineer for, 30 years or so. Also worked with the security services of many countries, so kind of a bit of a spook, if you will. I can't tell you how I got into that, but I got into it. And I guess my job allowed me to do the travel and so forth and get to places where many people couldn't. So yeah, I did all that and then basically retired very early, stock options, all that kind of crap. But anyhow, that's pretty much what I did. Okay, what was this one? How do you learn the skills that you have? That's interesting. I guess mostly my interest obviously came from plastic models and pretending I was a pilot and all that stuff, then becoming a real one and so forth. But mostly, I guess, from my dad. My dad was a very innovative guy who was really, really good with his hands and always doing crap for neighbours and so on and so forth. And he used to restore British motorcycles. In fact, he restored them in our living room. So it'd be, I grew up with the smell of gas and oil and stuff while I watched the telly. Working with him on projects just caused my brain to, I guess, become more innovative. And then I guess I was always good with my imagination. So I was always very, very creative and it just came natural to me. I guess it's kind of a bit of a gift. Many of us have them and many of us don't. But that's kind of how I got into building things. Let's see, my dog has joined me. This is Kiki. Anyhow, any other hobbies? Yeah, I've designed and built homes. I've sailed yachts, sailing boats, and all the rest of it. I used to, when I was much younger, I used to race cars, formula cars, and karts. I was actually very good at karting. I was fourth in the national championships and so forth for Canada. And I do lots of home renovations, and I still do them to this day. I'll throw a few pictures up and so forth. Yeah, I don't do electronics that much anymore, even though I was an electrical engineer. To be honest with you, I've forgotten more than I know. And Brad is quite brilliant with the electronics and software, so he does most of that design work now, and I just concentrate more on the mechanical building kind of stuff. So yeah, I've got all kinds of interest. In fact, just recently I had a very expensive watch which just broke, and they want an arm and a leg to fix it. So I decided I think I'll learn about what's it called, urology or something, watch making and fixing or whatever. So I've ordered some equipment so I can do that, like a high powered magnifying glass and all this kind of stuff. So that's on its way. So I'm going to start stripping my watch down and see if I can repair that. And it's I like working on little tinkering things. Like a watch to me is fascinating. The way I don't know how the hell they designed them, to be honest with you. So yeah, I'm getting into that. I also found in my pocket a few kind of rare coins that I came across. So I sort of just looked them up, and the same magnifying microscope thingamajig I've just ordered will allow me to also look at coins and stuff. So I guess I'll do that. And I also built myself a racing simulator, a full action, racing simulator, which is keeps me sharp as I'm getting into my older age and stuff. So I do all kinds of things, to be honest with you. Anything what just comes to fancy, building, renovating, and so forth.